Hello everybody, Artifact Molotok here, and I'm talking Pendulum Magicians today. But today, I really want to address all the success that everyone's had with Pendulum Magicians lately. Jeff Jones taking first place at the UDS, 5 of the top 8 spots being Pendulum Magicians, and a lot of people that know me closely are like always telling me, play Pendulum Magicians, play Pendulum Magicians, play Pendulum Magicians. And let me tell you something really interesting about my locals. Here's an interesting fact. No one runs Pendulum Magicians at my locals whatsoever, because they believe it to be too vulnerable of a deck to anti-spell fragrance. And honestly, based on the results I've seen with my Statellars, they're theoretically correct. They were, the way I run my Statellars, they were better off running True Draco, of any variant of True Draco, and they would have a better chance at being my Statellars if they would run Pendulum Magicians. Because here's the thing, I have my anti-spell fragrance, right? With the way my deck is built, I have one answer to protect. I have the first answer, then the second answer, then the third answer, then the fourth answer, and then the fifth answer. And who knows, if I happen to have a hand trap at the moment, I'll have a sixth answer. So whatever the fuck you're trying to do. Therefore, and literally, anti-spell fragrance makes all your wavering alliances and duelist alliances dead. And in a sense, your pendulum calls become dead as well, because you can't establish any scales. And also, what's the point of fucking searching more of them? I guess to thin down your deck, I suppose, is the most logical reason that I got for you. Literally, a simple mistake or a Droll Lockbird or an Ash Blossom, or in some cases, a Ghost Ogre, when the graph of time or space is taking activation place, can put this deck so far behind. And while it is a good rogue deck, a lot of you are probably going to punch me in the face for this. But yes, the deck is indeed overrated in the competitive scene. It's funny how the deck goes from being underrated overnight to becoming overrated literally overnight when Jeff Jones freaking wins UDS championships and shit like that. I'm just saying, it's a good deck, but if you know how to prepare for it, it shouldn't be a hard matchup at all. Okay? Like, there's only so many outs that they can potentially have in the deck for you. And if you're playing, and let's say, let me not even include Stellar Knights in my example. Okay? Let's say you're playing Paleozoic Demise, because that's the more probable Demise deck that you're playing right now, because who the fuck is playing Stellars aside from Artifact Molotok? Right? Yeah. No. So, chances are you're playing Paleozoic. Do you realize that a single anti-spell fragrance, until they can out that shit, literally puts their entire deck in shambles and they cannot do a single thing about it? You can also run tech cards like Mistake to prevent them from searching to thin their decks down to search in order to top deck their outs during the draw phase. Or if they use draw cards like Desires in the deck, which I wouldn't understand at all. Or you can use Mistake to prevent their blue boys from going off in the first place. Or there's Spellbook Secrets, for that matter. In general. So yeah, the only thing you have to do is protect your anti-spell fragrance in that matchup. And the deck basically falls apart in a crisis. Falls into a crisis where it can't do anything. And they can't get any good, consistent turn 1 fields out there because they can't establish the scales. And this is why a lot of people tell me, oh, you should run Pendulum Magicians, they're so good right now. Copy Jeff Jones' list. You can win locals like Cole 40 just did. I'm like, no, that's stupid. Like, logic here, people. Like, there's a reason why my locals is very True Draco heavy. Because people at my locals understand that True Draco is one of the hardest decks to out, even to this day. Even if you open Anti-Spell Fragrance on them, or Imperial Order, it's very fucking annoying to beat the deck, because they still got Masterpiece. And I mean, I added 2 Masterpiece, but that shit was hard to do. because I wasn't running Kaijus in the side. The change I would make for next time maybe is to add Kaijus in the side. I don't know. But shit's scary, bro. Shit's scary. Having to go up against something like that. That's a retarded masterpiece master dick right there. But yeah, a lot of people are hyping up Pendulum Magicians now. And I feel we got to the point where they were underrated and they're being hyped up to a point where they're being overrated now. So now I need to level you guys back down to reality. This deck isn't good enough to be the number one spot. Okay? I need to level y'all down a notch or two. This deck is good, but is it the best deck in the format? No. Could it be top 3? Maybe. And probably yes. But number 1, nowhere near. It has to contend with Paleozoic and True Dracos, which is possibly the matchup that will ruin it. Since True Dracos can tech in anti-spells as well. Very easily. And let me address this Cosmo shit. I actually tested out a Cosmo deck one day at my locals. Not in the actual tournament, just play testing. Because I already knew what cards and what deck and what cards I was going to run in that deck for that day in locals. I've been always running Statellas for the past few months now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now I can basically have free confirmation and Demise is staying at 3 forever now. Until the next shit comes out that can abuse it, that becomes the best deck in the game. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I need to knock the hype down on Cosmo a little bit, and I need to bring y'all niggas back to reality. That shit is horrible. Like that shit is good. It's a okay deck, but is it worth the price points that they're at now? Hell fucking no. That deck isn't even worth buying for the price point that it's at right now. And for the Yugi-tubers that keep saying that Cosmo and Mermail are actually affordable, y'all niggas are retarded. Okay, because that shit is nowhere near affordable. Okay? Look, I really need to sink your boats, your ships back down to reality. Because y'all are in a zone that doesn't even consist of anything near reality at this moment. Wanna know why? Because you're living in an illusion. So allow me to be the one to sink your ship back down to reality. Cosmo and Mermails haven't been budget for months now. Those decks have been expensive for months. If you wanted to get Cosmo affordable, you had to do that shit back in November or December of 2016. That is when you got those decks. If you didn't buy it then, you were too late and you were going to have to spend a lot of money. The only thing the deck did was increase in price point from there. I will admit this much, the deck is possibly the best profit out of any and all budget decks. Because the cards just keep spiking up due to false hype. Just because Asian Persuasion went undefeated doesn't mean you're gonna go undefeated. That's his list, he knows his list best. And this is the issue with net decking in the game. People net deck carelessly, but fail to understand that when they're copying a deck that they don't have the level of understanding of the list that the person who constructed the list did. So if y'all want to net deck my Statellar Knight list and you come yelling at me telling me that you lost, you, sir, don't pilot the deck correctly. You're not shuffling it correctly, you're not playing it correctly. If you made changes to freaking suit your playstyle, I'll respect that, but then you end up making the deck terrible by putting Phoenix Chains and Thunder King Ryos in there, and you're going to come at me and scream at me and tell me you lost? I'm not even going to listen to you. Want to know why? Because I know the way I build my list is the best way to play the deck ever. At least for the duration of this format. There has to be a drastic change in the format for me to even consider changing my list at this time. Seeing how I went undefeated with the Tellers, I'm not really listening to anybody much, very little, if not any at all, of anyone else's input on my list right now. You're coming to my video to shit talking and criticize and critique my list when I got first place undefeated. I'm not even listening to your argument right now. But yeah, if you're back on topic, if you're coming to net deck somebody, you need to get a basic you need to get not even a basic understanding, intermediate understanding of what the fucking deck even does. Because if you and you need to ask them how they make sure they make have you understand how they play their deck. Because you're gonna have to play their deck the same exact way, if not close to it, that they play it. Because if you don't, you're probably gonna fail. And if you don't fail, you're a good player. You understand the deck inside and out then. Take a look at MCO40's video that he reported of him going undefeated at locals with Jet Jones' Pendulum Magician list that he net decked card for card. Now, who's the only list on YouTube that won with the Tellers at locals this weekend? Me. And anybody that runs Horn of Heaven, they watch my videos and they're copying me. Because I'm the only man out alive right now. I even put a report on YouTube of Horn of Heaven being such a broken card in the Tellers. Anybody who uses the idea, you know where it came from. And you need to make sure they can credit their sources properly. Because, and shout out to Flowful Stuff Incorporated for having me not hate net decking as much, but my opinions on this much won't change. If you net deck me, you're a worse player at the game than me. This opinion will not change my views on net decking. The moment you net deck me, I'm automatically a better player than you. The moment you're copying me card for card. The moment I got you copying me card for card is the moment that I'm a better player than you in every single aspect of the game. And you put I am a fucking failure on your forehead. But I just really need to address this shit because a lot of people have been hyping up this deck greater than what it really is. And I tried out Pendulum Magicians online before. Of course I have. I experiment with everything that the community tells me is good. But then I realized that shit. Like the majority of the rest of the shit that people hype up. And you really have to go do the work yourself in order for you to get a real understanding of what's good and what's really just a dipshit. Like, Pendulum Magicians really are just a dipshit. Because they're a good deck, but they just lose so hard to anti-spell. Unless they have the MST or Twin Twisters to chain. They can't out that. They're so vulnerable to anti-spell. It's like you flip up anti-spell on them and you automatically win. How one card can shut down entire decks. It's just sad to see that people actually think that this is a tier 1 contender to True Draco, which is still the best deck in the format, folks. Masterpiece Turbo ain't going anywhere since Dragonic Diagram and Masterpiece weren't hit. If True Dracos weren't hit, then this probably would be the deck to beat. But until Masterpiece goes, and Spiral, the double helix, gets banned, emergency banned like we all know he is, this deck ain't don't got it. Okay, this deck don't got it to be number 1. Like everybody's claiming that it is. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people have been telling me, oh, Pendulum Magician's best deck confirmed. No, hold your horses. This deck is shit. In comparison to what it used to be and what it will have to be in order to be the best deck in the format. The reason I say True Draco is better in almost every way is because True Draco has a lot of built-in outs to their list and their deck in general. Pendulum Magicians, there's only a certain limit to the amount of outs that they can actually run. And I at my local because me and my brother we play Yu-Gi-Oh! And my friend we play Yu-Gi-Oh! Together, and we have a ton of cards And we're always playtesting shit. And so I managed to get some cards. I managed to build a list of Pendulum Magicians. I went with the standard list and I play tested at locals against some friends that I know in my locals. And that play True Draco. And I've come to realize that this deck can only beat them if they don't expect it. The only reason I think this deck took 5 of the top 8 spots is just because no one was expecting this deck to wreck the meta. Now that people are ready for it, tumbleweed's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna take place with this deck and on the levels that it used to be before. And the only types of players you're gonna be able to get over are those that don't understand what the fuck this deck does or how to beat it. I have to break this down for people because a lot of people don't understand this concept. And who the fuck are these people that are overhyping Mask Heroes? Oh my god! When I saw Innovation YGO's video of putting Mask Heroes at the #1 budget spot, I had to laugh and I had to dislike that video. That's right, I disliked that shit. Why? Because Mask Heroes are nowhere near the top 10, let alone #1. They don't even deserve to make top 25. They really don't. The deck is shit. And again, no one at my locals runs Mask Heroes at all. Because all of them agree with me. Mask Heroes suck. They really do. And they're not going to do anything until they get a Link Monster. Heroes need a Link Monster in general in order to be able to do anything whatsoever in this goddamn game. That's how it goes. I'm sorry to bring you guys to reality, but this is reality, folks. Mask Heroes are probably worse off than Pendulum Magicians and Cosmo. They really are. And Cosmo is a cool deck. I have all the cards necessary to build it. I've been play testing with it in certain ways. I've been trying out all the viruses and shit like that. I tried Anti-Spell and Imperial Order in the main. I tried out Strikes. I tried out Warnings. I tried out all these different fucking builds of Cosmo. And I just don't find it good enough to be able to win. Especially when we get into the stupid spiral format. Like, unless if you go first and you resolve your viruses off, and they don't have any your freaking virus, and they have all monsters or all spells and traps in their hand, and unless they have that, then I'll see Cosmo being able to handle the boys that this deck can make. Like, Cosmo's gonna have to run hand traps after a certain extent, and in order to even survive. And at that point, it's no longer budget. Cosmo is in budget now, but now you're gonna have to throw 3 Ash Blossoms in there in order for the deck to even survive. Once we get the new Spiral support, Cosmo's struggling now. That True Draco and Pendulum Magicians are the top 2 decks in the game. What do you think is gonna happen to Cosmo when Spirals get their new Link Monster? You want me to tell you what's gonna happen? Cosmo, True Draco, and Pendulum Magicians are gonna fade out. And it's gonna take smarter rogue players to be able to keep up with the game. I just needed to address a lot of these things because there's been a lot of controversy and hype behind these decks. And I just really needed to clear it all up for you guys. Get the gunk out of your ears and listen to this video. Because hashtag the truth. This is the truth. Take it or leave it. Well, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm probably going to be trying to live stream like around tomorrow or Wednesday or something like that, since I didn't really continue with the stream on Friday. But yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, check out Team King of Games and Fluff Stuffing Incorporated and Asian Persuasion 2008. And Gage X Scapegoat. And, of course, subscribe to the one and only Artifact Motok. Peace.